Hello everyone, I hope you've enjoyed this series on the Colorado Backcountry Discovery Route. This is the last day, of course, and afterwards I'll be having a bit of a studio chat where I'd like to share a little bit more background information on the Colorado Backcountry Discovery Route and our experience along it, as well as a couple of things I've got going on with the Wrangler. So hang around afterwards for a studio chat. After our night of torrential rain, we were greeted by a morning of beautiful weather. Today we'd head over Los Pinos Pass and down to Lake City, where we'd pick up the Alpine Loop. At least, that was the plan.
I think we drove 16, 17 hours from the Grand Canyon to Boise, Idaho.
Morning, Mark.
Good morning.
It's the last of my milk and cereal and blueberries here. Must be getting close to the end of our trip.
Must be.
At some point, don't we get into the Alpine?
Yeah, that's going to be.
That might be a pretty busy area on a Friday.
Absolutely. Cinnamon Pass right there.
Last day on the trail, gentlemen.
Yep.
It's been fun. Let's make the last day a good one.
All right. We'll see how far we get and plan from there.
Yes, sir.
WRN 924 is up on 17.
Yeah, you're right, Dad. There's no traffic on this road from yesterday.
This is a really nice campsite. I liked it, except for the rain.
And that was a lot of rain. How long did it rain? For about 2 solid hours?
That's probably a good estimate.
We're getting late stuff this morning, but it sure was worth it to dry up the gear.
Yeah, I still have some wet gear, but I'll be fine.
Good morning. This is day 6 on the Colorado BDR. This is our first full day without Travis, and our last day of exploring.
stream there.
Yeah, I think it got a little wider from last night's rain. Come across that bridge and it gets into this canyon. Rock faces on both sides with the creek next to it.
And no power lines.
Very pretty stretch of road.
Yes, they do. They tease us with these pretty little puffy clouds, cumulus, I guess. And before you know it, we get big thunderheads over our heads.
Watching that bird right there. He was just hovering. Hawk.
A little lake off to the side.
Lower Mill Creek Pond.
We reached Highway 149 south of Lake City, where we plan to refuel and continue our journey along Section 2 of the COBDR.
Wow, that store has Jeep rentals. Did you see that? Jeep rentals and horseback rides.
I was going to make some snarky remark to you guys, but hey, you guys can get a real off-road vehicle back there. Jesse, a resident of the town, gave us the bad news. Okay, and that is the road to
up Cinnamon.
I see.
Okay, up Cinnamon Pass. In other words, what the COBDR, the Colorado Backcountry Discovery Route is.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's IF.
So we met a gentleman. He saw us looking at the maps, figuring out exactly where we were going to go. And he came up to us, says, "You guys don't plan on going over Cinnamon Pass?" We're like, uh-huh. He says, "It's closed." Apparently that rain that we experienced last night caused a couple of mudslides.
Okay, back there to the right.
Ultimately, we decided to drive toward Engineer Pass and find a place to camp along the way. Ideally, it would allow us to quickly return to Lake City in the morning so that we could each get an early start in the direction of our homes. This is the Ulay mining area.
Hello, Mrs. Deer.
Two of them there.
County Road 23 off of Engineer Pass.
And there's some dispersed camping up in here. And then keep going back a little further.
Good little hill climb on the side of it.
Good little hill climb on this side of it. Gonna have to back up. Some pretty dark clouds beyond these mountains toward the north.
Kid thinks he's found us a good campsite up here on this little plateau, so we're headed up to it. Yeah, I'm done as long as I'm okay here with everybody.
That's where we camped for the night. Pretty epic campsite.
Been having a problem with the vibration when I'm at highway speeds,
See that bar?
and had the wheel checked, and the wheel took about 3 times the amount of balancing weights as the other 3 tires. So we're going to try changing it and see if that eliminates the vibration that I was getting on the highways.
You're not relying on hydraulics to keep it up either. So it's safer.
I like it.
You don't have to use a jack stand with it.
Just sitting out here on our front porch watching the storm.
What?
Did he huddle up on you?
He was hiding underneath me.
He wants in the truck, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, rain's getting heavier. Well, we're getting more light hail tonight.
Sounds like everybody got a good night's sleep,
Yeah.
except for Tad with limited oxygen. Well,
I slept with this closed up, but I didn't think about air exchange.
yeah.
Oh,
So,
find yourself breathing hard or what?
no, I don't know if
Just
it was
stuffy?
factual. Just in the morning, I woke up and thought, there's no vent on this thing when it's closed.
So it was a good trip,
Yeah.
except for the
Fabulous
rain.
trip.
Why? And it wasn't just rain. I mean, it was rain so hard.
Yeah.
And I know they need it here, but boy, oh boy.
Not all in 2 days.
Giving us a break. I'm sorry?
Not all in 2 days.
3 days.
3 days.
Yeah, 3 days. One day was moderate, I suppose.
Yeah.
Mark, you're following us down to Lake City?
Yes.
That's where we're parting ways?
Yeah. When I get to Lake City, we will part ways. So if we can find a place to park and
Oh, yeah.
share our goodbyes down there.
Okay.
I'm sure
If
it'll
we
be
can.
easier than yesterday.
Yeah, it should be easier, I would think.
Less
Just-
traffic if we leave this early.
Yeah, I wonder how full that creek is. We do have to cross that.
Yeah.
A lot of water in this puddle.
Dad, you good? You need a spotter? Got it. Nice job, brother.
You make it through, kid?
Almost got the turn. Yep, crossing the creek now. That was fun. Oh heck, I lied. Those colors up there are too pretty to not try and capture a little bit of that.
We had experienced an incredible adventure across the beautiful state of Colorado. Along the way, we'd met some interesting people, witnessed some amazing sights, learned some interesting history, and shared some wonderful time together. It was mildly disappointing that we had not completed the section across Cinnamon Pass, but that leaves us something for next time, doesn't it?
Always playing with the cameras. Good guy.
Hey, welcome back to my studio, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the Colorado Backcountry Discovery Route, a little bit about my Wrangler, some stuff I've got going on with that, and just a couple other miscellaneous things. Even have a little gear buying hint that Travis put together for me. So let me look at my notes here, and the first thing I want to talk about is our night one camp. We had a little bit of confusion when we arrived at Route National Forest, because they had some signs up there about, let me look up the name, the Bear River Corridor. And we thought they applied to the whole area, but they only applied to that one area right along the river. And basically, they don't allow dispersed camping except in designated sites. They call them designated dispersed camping. And normally we think of National Forest dispersed camping as being free. These are not free. So we were confused because we were trying to camp away from the river, up near a lake, and we thought, well, this is not on their map of the legal campsites. Well, that's because we were outside the corridor area, and we were in the actual National Forest area, that the old rules that we all used to, dispersed camping, just find a spot that's been previously used preferably, and leave no trace. No fee. The next thing I'd like to talk about is something brilliant that Kip did before the trip. He went through with a highlighter and he marked the COBDR on his gazetteer. And of course, you've heard me talk about gazetteers before. Highly recommend you get a gazetteer or some equivalent atlas for the state that you're traveling in, or states if you're traveling across state boundaries. They're very helpful for finding alternate routes, and you saw us refer to them several times through the videos. But marking the trail made it so much easier to find the route, because there's a lot of roads on a gazetteer, and we could just go right straight to it. Okay, this is the route, let's see, this is where we're at. And then we could plot our alternate route and save ourselves several minutes trying to find out exactly what page of the gazetteer we were on that day. So I just thought that was great, and highly encourage folks to look at something like that. I can't say enough good things about using GEMRES radios for your communications between your vehicles. Everybody should just be moving to that. Some people say they use ham radio, which to me is a flag that they're probably not a ham operator, because a ham operator would be more specific. He would say, I'm using 2 meters. He wouldn't say, I'm using a ham radio. Or he might say, I'm using 75 centimeters, or he might say, I'm using 10 meters. But he wouldn't say, I'm using a ham radio. But regardless, CB is a garbage band. It's affected by sunspots, and that causes propagation problems. You might be talking to a guy that's a quarter mile away, and the guy you're actually hearing is 3 states away, because that's the way sunspots work on our atmosphere. GEMRES radio is not affected by that. You have good communications. It operates actually above the 75 centimeter ham radio band, around 470 megahertz if I remember right. The license for it does not require a test, but there is a license. It's good for 10 years, and it covers not only you, but your entire immediate family. Another thing I like about GEMRES is it's compatible with FRS handheld radios. So if you're sending the kids out for a hike, you might throw them one of the FRS radios and say, carry that. If you have any problems at all, just give us a call over that, and you can monitor for it on your GEMRES radio with a better antenna up on top of your vehicle or something. There are also some repeaters coming up. We ran into one repeater, which is why you heard in this video, I was on channel 17. Normally we would be on channel 16 on GEMRES in order to have higher power as opposed to channel 4. That way if we got separated, we were still sure we could communicate with each other. But I had great results using the GEMRES radios. As I departed Lake City, I continued to talk to them. They were headed north out of Lake City. I was headed south out of Lake City. And I'd estimate we were about a good 8, 9, 10 miles apart in these canyons, communicating to each other still. It works really well. The next thing I'd like to talk about are the Colorado state wildlife areas, or specifically about the state wildlife area pass. In order to get into the state wildlife areas, you're supposed to have a hunting or a fishing license. If you're just driving through, for example, the Radium State Wildlife Area, the Colorado Backcountry Discovery Route actually travels through that. You do not require a hunting or a fishing license. But there's an alternate to the hunting or fishing license. It's fairly new, so it's if you go searching, you'll see that it says you need a hunting or fishing license. But this other pass also works. It's called a State Wildlife Area Pass, SWA Pass. And they're much less expensive for non-residents than a Colorado Pass. I think Tad paid $40 some odd for his. I'm a senior, so I got mine for $10, and it's good for a year. Let me correct that. It's good for a year if you buy it on the right day. It expires on March 31st of the next year, so if you buy it in December, you're only going to get a few months. But if you're only going that one time, then it probably doesn't matter to you anyway. I just would encourage you to get one of these. If you're just traveling through, fine. But if you stop and use any of the facilities, then you're supposed to have one of these. If you get out your camera and start photographing a deer that's by the side of the road, and a game warden sees you, he's probably going to talk to you. I don't know if he'll give you a ticket, but he's probably going to talk to you. besides that, they're neat areas, and you can camp in some of them in certain seasons, and so that can be an option for you if you're like us, struggling to find a campsite for the night. Anyway, I just would encourage you to support the places that the wildlife lives, because that's one of the reasons we go out to these places. The next thing I'd like to talk about is I installed a second CB radio in the Wrangler. Why? Well, because I found it laying in my garage. Matter of fact, I found two of them laying in my garage. It's kind of like, gee, where'd this come from? Forgot I had them. And I thought I can install that on that interior overhead rack that's right up here as I drive. And it's the same kind of radio as the other one that's got all the controls and the microphone. And I could take and hook that up to an antenna up on the NMO mount, which is up on top of the Jeep, rather than the antenna that's between the swing gate and the rear of the Jeep. The problem with that one is there's so much metal around it, it's just not a very effective radio. That's not really a good place for an antenna, and that's the antenna that broke. So, and I fixed that, by the way. I remanufactured that bracket, so that antenna is back there. Even though that radio doesn't work very well, it could still come in handy in certain situations. For example, if I want to use Jimmer's radio like I did on this trip and CB radio simultaneously, then I need two different antennas. But I did get that second CB put in there, and it works great, I guess. But we just didn't use it this trip. We used the Jimmer's. The next thing I'd like to talk to you about is my engine overheat condition. I had a problem a few years ago. Those of you who've watched some of my older videos probably remember seeing that, where over a couple of year period I had continual overheating problems, and I was puzzled by it. I had installed a relay in my fan, engine cooling fan circuitry to allow me to turn that fan off when I ford deep water to keep from splashing water all over the inside of the engine compartment, which can get into electronic components and cause weird gremlins. It finally dawned on me that that was the problem, was my mod, the actual relay that I had used. What happens is, as you drive on washboard roads, and I kid about cobblestone streets, but it happened one time to me on cobblestone streets of Guthrie, Oklahoma, the relay contacts vibrate. And that vibration, when you have electricity flowing through there, causes a little bit of arcing. And that arcing causes carbon buildup, and that carbon builds up dirt and forms resistance. And it doesn't take very much resistance at those kind of currents to drop the voltage quite a bit, which causes the fan to slow down, to lose speed, until it finally stops running. And so I had cut open the old relay and saw where the damage was on the relay contacts. So I bought a new relay and I replaced it, and I bought two relays, and I'll start carrying one as a spare. It takes a couple of years for the problem to build up. It just depends on how much washboard road that you're seeing. If you're driving on city streets, it's not going to be a problem at all, but if you're driving on city streets, you're probably not worried about turning off your engine and cooling fan, are you? The next thing, in this video you saw Tad and the kid were changing a tire for me while I got to do the camera work. And that was because I had a wheel vibration when I took the Wrangler to Nevada, and it was really bad. There was some mud buildup on that one wheel, and I noticed that when I was washing it after I got back from the trip, so I washed all that off, and it improved dramatically, but I still had a little bit of a vibration. And so I thought, well, I want to get rid of this. So right before the trip, I took all the wheels down and had them balanced. And I knew this one wheel could be a problem because after I got back from Nevada, the axle seal, that rear axle seal, started leaking. I think from how severe that vibration was, it tore up that axle seal, which was put in there only a couple of years ago when I had the gears replaced. I'll come back to having gears replaced. So I was suspicious about that wheel, and that wheel had an awful lot of wheel weights on it, about 4 times how many were on the other wheels. And it had it after the technician balanced them again for me. So I thought, well, let me get that one off and put the spare tire on there. And the vibration didn't change. So that tire itself, that tire wheel combination, was not the problem. It could be a different problem. And so it may be solved with the next mod I'm going to do. I said I'd come back to that. The reason that I changed the gears on that axle was because I tore up a pinion gear. I've done that several times. And my mechanic has talked me into putting a D60 axle on it, and I figured while I'm replacing that, I'll put a D44 on the front. I've got axles on order through Northridge 4x4. There's a shout out for them. I've done a lot of business with them, and I appreciate their business. I'm disappointed though. It's going to take a month to get the 44, and they said 4 months to get the 60. So it'll be a little while before you start hearing me praise the virtues of these improved axles. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that those are coming down for the Wrangler. They are on order. Speaking of wheel and tire problems, Kid had a problem with his front tire, and it was wearing very oddly. He noticed that during the trip.
This was my front tire before I got an alignment from Big O this morning in a place called Montrose, Colorado. It started on the way down there and it got progressively worse as we were on the trail. And then as soon as we hit pavement, aired up, got out of two-wheel drive, it got super bad.
It turned out to be a poor alignment. He nursed the car all the way to Montrose. Once he got to Montrose, he found a tire shop there. They took care of an alignment for him. And I don't know if he bought a new tire there, but he was planning to replace all the tires on the vehicle anyways. Matter of fact, just this morning he sent me a picture of his new tires. He's going with Falcon Wild Peak ATs, in case you're curious. That's all I know. Well, and they're 35s. And he had 37s, he's downgrading to 35s. The next thing I'd like to talk to you about is the stove that Travis had on this trip. He put together a little video for me talking about this stove. I was just impressed that, not because I think I need it, I've got a really nice stove, but this was so inexpensive, and I thought, you need to share this with our community, because there's people out there who, you know, they have to be frugal with their money in order to enjoy overlanding, and this is really a great opportunity. So I'll share that video with you.
Yeah, so like we were talking around the fire last night, different people need different things. This is great. I love this little stove because it's super simple. They're super cheap. This one I got at Sam's, Costco, $25. You can get them for $35, I think, at Walmart or something. But they're super simple. They run on just a butane canister, so I carry plenty of those with me. You just push down the engagement, turn it on. They're great because they're adjustable, so you can actually cook with it and adjust down to a simmer or full steam. So either way, super nice. The only downfall with these is once you get down to, you know, below 15 degrees, they start getting a little bit problematic. I'll keep the canisters in the vehicle with me, or I'll just use a different stove. But these work great for 95% of the travel that I do. It's super nice. I mean, it's great, but you've got other things like the jet boil, stuff like that. Those have their purpose, but if, you know, this thing's $100. So if you're looking for a good way to get started and something that you can not have to worry about getting, you know, damaged in the truck or whatever, it's pretty simple to replace and affordable. Man, it's a great little stove. So these are what we send out with all of our rigs, just because they're so user-friendly, simple, you can get fuel anywhere. But I love it. It's a great little stove.
And then the last thing I'd like to talk to you about is drones. The rules for drones are changing, and you now require what's called a trust certificate in order to fly a drone. I completed my coursework for that a few weeks ago. It took me off about an hour, and basically I read a little bit, and then they asked me a couple of questions, test questions. I answered the questions correctly, and then they let me proceed to the next section. And we did this for, like I said, about an hour. So I think some people complete it more quickly. I did a lot of reference to the links that they had to learn more information about the areas where they offered that. And then at the end, you can print out the certificate, and they have no record that you took this course, which didn't cost you a dime, by the way. And that printout is what you have. Anyway, it's called Trust. I'm going to put a link to the FAA website on the Trust program, and from there you can find some university or other school to go through. I went to the University of Arizona. My daughter happens to be a lecturer there on staff at the University of Arizona, and so I thought I'd go ahead and just patronize them. Well, that's all I have. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and we'll see you after the next one. Bye-bye now.